Refractory ascites is defined as ascites that fails to respond to sodium restriction and high-dose diuretics, typically spironolactone of 400 mg and furosemide of 160 mg daily. It represents a critical turning point in the course of decompensated cirrhosis. Ascites itself is a common complication of cirrhosis, presents in about 20% of patients overall, and in up to 67% of those with decompensated disease. That translates to around 300,000 patients with ascites in the US alone. Among these, about 10% or roughly 30,000 individuals go on to develop refractory ascites. This progression is illustrated in the pyramid on the right, starting from the base with over 1.5 million patients living with cirrhosis. Importantly, refractory ascites carries a grave prognosis. Without intervention, median survival ranges from just 6 to 12 months, making timely recognition and appropriate management crucial to improving outcomes. Let's take a step back to understand the physiological casket that defines the endpoint of medical management in refractory ascites. This diagram, adapted from Pizuma and Abaldes in liver transplantation in 2017, elegantly captures the progression of cirrhosis and its impact on systemic hemodynamics. On the x-axis, we see the progression of cirrhosis over time, while the y-axis tracks the key hemodynamic parameters like cardiac output, mean arterial pressure, and systemic vascular resistance. As cirrhosis advances, we observe a steady decline in these parameters due to splanchnic vasodilatation and worsening portal hypertension. Now notice the complications that emerge along this trajectory. Ascites develops early, followed by infections, and the use of vasodilators or non-selective beta blockers, which can further exacerbate hypovolemia. This sets the stage for a critical tipping point represented by the central circle. Here, patients develop refractory ascites, hyponatremia, and hepatorenal syndrome, hallmarks of advanced decompensation. At this stage, the patient becomes highly vulnerable to AKI, a key clinical endpoint signaling the failure of medical management. What does this mean for us as clinicians? It underscores that once a patient reaches this cluster of complications, refractory ascites, hyponatremia, and hepatorenal syndrome, their hemodynamic reserve is so compromised that continuing with diuretics or other medical therapies alone is often futile and sometimes harmful. This is the point where we must pivot to alternative strategies like TIPS, transplantation, or palliative care, which we'll explore next. Here is a recap of the standard medical approach. We start with sodium restriction, ideally under 2 grams per day, alongside dual diuretics, spironolactone and furosemide, to promote fluid removal. In selected cases, we add adjunctive therapies. Midodrine may help by improving effective arterial volume, and short-term albumin infusion can support circulatory function, especially post-paracentesis. Tolvaptan has also been shown to benefit as an adjunct therapy, and in fact has been incorporated in the Japanese guidelines. The overarching goal is simple: control the ascites, preserve quality of life, and delay complications. But the key question is, when does this approach fail? When do we need to recognize that we have reached the limit of medical therapy and must consider other options like TIPS or transplant? Let's explore that next. To determine when medical therapy has failed, we rely on the AASLD 2021 criteria for refractory ascites. First, this refers to ascites that cannot be mobilized, meaning it does not respond to standard treatment, or ascites that occurs early and repeatedly despite appropriate therapy. There are 2 key subtypes. Diuretic resistant ascites is due to lack of response even with maximum tolerated doses, typically spironolactone of 400 and furosemide of 160 mg daily. And second is diuretic intractable ascites, on the other hand, occurs when side effects or complications of diuretics such as renal impairment prevent their continued use. A common example is a rise to over 2 mg per deciliter of the serum creatinine. Identifying these features early is critical because they signal a poor prognosis and the need to transition to advanced therapies like TIPS or transplantation. To formally diagnose refractory ascites, we turn to the International Ascites Club criteria, which outlines 3 key clinical scenarios. First, no response to therapy is defined as failure to lose at least 1.5 liters in body weight after 7 days of treatment with maximum dose diuretics and salt restriction. Second, early recurrence is characterized by the reaccumulation of ascites within 4 weeks after a successful paracentesis. And third, diuretic intolerance, where complications such as AKI or acute kidney injury, hyponatremia, or hepatic encephalopathy occur, preventing further escalation or continuation of diuretic therapy. And recognizing these criteria helps us to identify patients who have reached the limits of medical management and may benefit from alternative therapies like TIPS or transplant consideration.